The wine hit fast, cold, sweet, deep red. It soaked through my shirt like ink through paper. I didn't move. Gasps broke the air. A napkin fluttered to the ground. Someone's phone tilted for a picture, then dipped back down. Cameron stepped back smiling like she'd spilled nothing more than lemonade. "Oh no," she said, not looking at me. "That vintage is nearly impossible to get out, especially on polyester." She turned toward the crowd, not toward me. I stayed still. My hand tightened around the warm metal of my coffee mug. I didn't wipe the stain. I didn't reach for help. I just breathed once deep and slow. My fingers didn't shake. The music stuttered, then found its beat again. The DJ didn't stop. No one dared. Cameron leaned in her perfume thick. "You shouldn't have come. The press'll be here soon. Can't have the help ruin the aesthetic." She was louder than she needed to be. She wanted ears. She got them. I still didn't speak. A guest in a navy jacket leaned sideways. "Whose land is this again?" he asked half to himself. Cameron answered too quickly. "It's under my fiancé's name. Owen's family signed everything over months ago. He's the next generation." Everyone knows that. I watched her lips move. I watched her lie. Then I looked past her. My eyes found Owen. He stood 10 feet away holding his glass of champagne. He'd seen it all. The pour, the stain, the humiliation. His fiancée laughing. He met my gaze. Briefly. Then he looked away. Took a sip. My chest didn't ache. It froze. A slow, cold stillness that replaced heat with steel. I had bled for that boy. Raised him in storms and droughts, counted every penny while he grew tall and clean. And here he was, letting a woman in diamonds rewrite the ground we stood on. I gripped the mug tighter. No one helped me to a seat. I walked to the edge of the floor alone. My boots left no sound on the polished wood I once helped pay for. The chairs were full. The laughter resumed. The stain dried heavy and silent on my chest. Behind me, Cameron smiled for a group photo. Flash. Flash. Then she kissed Owen's cheek and turned to welcome a reporter from the local paper. I kept walking. Past the silver trays, past the floral arch, toward the vendor tent. My son didn't follow. I didn't look back. They didn't ask. They grabbed my arm. Cameron's mother, Danette, smiled through her teeth and pulled me toward the back, past the flower-wrapped poles, past the family tables lined in white. "Let's keep the front clean for the photographers," she whispered. "Come sit here, sweetheart. You'll be more comfortable." Her nails dug in. Her tone said favor. Her grip said order. She shoved a metal folding chair out from a plastic table near the back exit. Behind it, staff in black moved quickly, carrying trays, stacking glasses, adjusting microphones. No one looked at me. I wasn't one of them, but I wasn't a guest either. Danette smoothed her cocktail dress like dusting off a job well done. "Stay put, okay?" She didn't wait for an answer. She was already walking away, heels clicking like applause. I sat. The seat wobbled. I caught the edge of the table before it tipped. Someone nearby cleared his throat, one of the waiters. He offered me a glass of water without making eye contact. I nodded once. He left it on a coaster and stepped away. I placed my mug still warm on the table. My fingers trembled. Just slightly. I made sure not to let it clink. Inside, laughter roared as another round of introductions began. Names called, faces applauded. Mine wasn't one of them. I looked down. My phone screen lit up, still open from earlier that morning. I hadn't meant to open it here. The app glowed white in the shadow of the tent, a document half-scrolled. Obsidian Ranch Property Trust. Article 4. Sole beneficiary designation. I locked the screen. Not yet. A plate clattered inside. Then music. Something loud and expensive sounding. Cameron had probably picked it. Flashy. Empty. like her. I sat with both hands in my lap. The dress clung to me, stained and sticky. The air smelled like grilled meat and rosewater. From here, I could see the backs of their heads. Danette, Cameron, Owen, all lined up in front, sparkling like they'd earned the light. They hadn't, but I had. Years of hauling, storing, feeding, fixing, signing papers when my hands were raw, rebuilding fences after storms, waking before the sun, going to sleep alone. No applause for that. The speaker cracked. Cameron's voice rang out, thanking guests, listing future plans, promising greatness. I sipped the water, set it down gently. My name was never said, not once, not even as a joke. I folded the linen napkin on my lap. Then I reached for my phone again. Applause burst through the walls. I stood, walked to the edge of the tent flap and watched. Owen took the mic with both hands, like it might fall if he didn't grip hard. Cameron beamed beside him, hand looped through his arm chin, tilted for the cameras. He cleared his throat. I want to thank everyone who made this day possible, especially Cameron's family, for showing me what real opportunity looks like, for welcoming me, for believing in me when it counted. The guests clapped. Someone whistled. He didn't look my way. Not once. I grew up without much. But thanks to the love and support of this family, I finally feel like I have a real future. Danette dabbed the corner of her eye. Cameron's father, Hugh, leaned in and clapped Owen on the back. Loud and proud. Not bad, he chuckled for a boy raised on borrowed land. Laughter. I sat down again. Slower this time. No wobble. I folded my napkin carefully, edge to edge, then once more thumb, pressing hard into the corner seam. A deep crease stayed. Owen had been small for his age. Thin wrists, big eyes, scared of thunderstorms. He used to sleep under the dining table during the worst of them, clutching his blanket like armor. I'd crouch beside him with a flashlight and a deck of cards. That was how I taught him numbers. When he got older, he outgrew his boots before winter. I wore the same coat 5 years running, patched it twice. Never mentioned it. He thanked a man he'd just met 5 years ago for believing in him. Not the woman who'd sold her ring to pay his first tuition deposit. The fabric napkin stayed in my hand. I smoothed it flat again. No use holding a fold that didn't belong. A breeze pushed through the open flap. Cameron's laughter carried with it. Thin, sharp. Every sound in that tent was meant to echo. I reached into my purse, felt the corner, first thick paper, sharp edge, pulled it halfway out. A legal-sized envelope, still sealed. Name written in blue ink. To be opened upon request. I pressed it between my palms, held it like a weight, let it warm from the heat of my skin, then slid it back in. Inside, Owen raised his glass. To building something new, I held my coffee again. Steady, bitter, familiar. I opened the side door to the ranch house. The hallway smelled like cologne and new paint. My bag wasn't in the guest room. I checked the mudroom. There it was, sitting in the trash bin, half covered by used paper towels and a broken cork. A clean shirt hung from the edge, still folded. I didn't call for anyone. I didn't ask why. I lifted the bag, shook off the dust, brushed away something sticky that had dripped down the side. The zipper still worked. I zipped it slowly, as if it needed time. Footsteps behind me. I didn't turn. Mom Owen said softly, "Listen." Cameron thought it was just old stuff. She didn't know. It's been a long day. I stood still. He took a breath, waited for me to make it easier. I didn't. "It's probably better if you don't stay tonight," he said finally. "Not because we don't want you, just with the energy, the press, the guests. It's smoother this way." Smoother, that's what he said. I nodded once, walked past him, out to the gravel. The sun had dipped low, making the edges of the house glow like it was caught on fire from the inside. I popped the trunk, set the bag inside carefully, then paused. Reached under the floor mat, pulled out a manila folder. Thick, labeled. I placed it gently on the dashboard. In plain view, Cameron's laugh echoed from the porch. Something about speeches and centerpieces. Her voice reached places it didn't belong. The porch lights flicked off. No one waved goodbye. I shut the trunk, got in, turned the key. The engine caught. In the rearview mirror, the ranch house glowed against the dark, big, bold borrowed. I drove slowly, not because I was unsure, but because I knew exactly where I'd be going. I parked behind the county records office, left the engine running, turned it off, took the folder from the dashboard, walked in. The building smelled like old air and toner. Fluorescence buzzed overhead. A woman in thick glasses looked up from behind the counter. "Help you?" I slid the folder forward. Merla Vaughn. Land parcel 113B, 114C, and auxiliary zones listed under the Vaughn estate. She raised her brows, took the folder, flipped through the first few pages. Ah, ranch land. I remember this file. She walked into the back. I stood still. The wall clock ticked like a slow drip. My fingers itched to move, but I kept them folded in front of me. She returned with a manila envelope stamped with red ink. Here we go. Vaughn land title. Includes ownership, lease rights, easement logs, water permits. She slid the first page out, turned it toward me. There it was. Owner of record Merla Vaughn. Inheritance record executed and verified. Usage rights revocable. She tapped the line at the bottom. You looking to adjust anything? I nodded. Revoke temporary usage rights under non-family tenant agreement. Effective immediately. Her expression flickered. She didn't ask who the tenant was. She pulled a directive form from a drawer and handed me a pen. Initial here. Sign there. I held the pen tighter than needed. Scratched my name across the page. The ink dragged harder than usual. The pen left a small tear near the tail of my signature. My jaw locked. I breathed in, out, through the nose. Once. The clerk stamped the paper, then made a copy. Funny, she said, stacking the forms. People forget who actually owns things around here. You'd be surprised how often. I didn't smile. Didn't nod. Just took the papers. Walked out into the morning sun. The gravel crunched under my boots, sharp and final. I opened the truck door. Set the new file beside me on the seat. Drove east. Toward the ranch. I pushed open the side door of Danner and Locke. No receptionist. Just a low hallway and the faint smell of dust and ink. I walked past the rows of law books, turned left, and knocked once. Come in. Alan Locke didn't stand. Just waved me toward the chair across from his desk. I sat. Placed the folder between us. He flipped it open. Quiet fingers. Careful eyes. Lease revocation signed. I nodded. He scanned the top page. Debt log. Every unpaid fee for water equipment feed. Since the day they moved in. He kept reading. Page after page. I took my coffee black. No sugar. No cream. The heat burned just enough to remind me I was awake. I didn't flinch. He reached the back of the folder. Slowed down. You found this. He held up a brittle page. The handwriting was familiar, jagged. My brother's. His will never contested, quietly filed. I nodded again. They've been building on land that was never theirs, he said. They've always built on things that weren't theirs. He leaned back, exhaled. I can file the notice now. Eviction within 72 hours. If they contest, we go to court. I stared at the folder. The paper edges were curled, sharp in places. One had cut my thumb on the way in. I hadn't noticed when it happened. Alan reached for the final document. Do you want to notify them today? I shook my head. Not yet, I said. Let them spend one more night pretending they belong. He didn't push. Didn't ask why. He just slipped the papers back into the folder and set it aside. The eviction order remained unsigned. Waiting. I stood, placed my empty mug on the coaster, and walked out. I drove home slow, past the field fence, past the road sign that still bore our family's name. The sunset lit the gravel red. I walked through the side entrance. No one turned. The barn had been cleared out and hung with warm lights. White cloths on folding tables. String music piped through a speaker someone forgot to hide. Cameron stood at the head table, her back to me. She wore cream satin and too much perfume. Owen stood beside her, hands in his pockets, head tilted, laughing at something her father said. I didn't walk further in. Just found a spot near the water cooler near the spare chairs stacked in the back. They toasted early. Cameron held her glass high and said, "To new beginnings earned through effort." Her voice rang sharp and polished like it had been practiced. Owen lifted his flute next, smiling the way he did in school plays when he forgot his lines, but kept going anyway. I watched him from behind the stack of chairs. Same shoulders, same tilt of the head. The boy who used to bring me dandelions when the cows got out. Now he wore his collar stiff and his smile borrowed. I didn't interrupt, didn't wave. I listened. The caterer passed by juggling plates. She paused, leaned close, whispering, "Would you like something to eat, ma'am?" I looked at her, smiled. "Not hungry," I said. "I'm full enough from what I know." She blinked, nodded, moved on. My hand slid into my bag fingers, closing around the envelope, still warm from being carried too long. I didn't take it out. I stayed until the toasts ended, until Cameron's family clinked forks against glasses and laughed about ranch life being so charming, until someone mentioned turning the West Barn into a wine bar, until Owen looked right through me. I walked out before dessert. Back at the truck, I sat for a minute. No music, no AC, just the night and the soft creak of metal cooling. Then I set my alarm. Dawn would come fast, and the auction gates opened early. I stepped onto the platform. No mic, no announcement, just boots on old wood, steady and loud enough to hush the murmurs. The auctioneer paused mid-sentence. Lot 27. A red Angus blinked behind him. Owen and Cameron stood at the edge of the crowd, flanked by her family. Champagne in one hand, phones in the other. I didn't look at them. I walked straight to the man holding the clipboard. "Clause 9C, I said. "It's in here. Please read it now." I handed him the folder. Not fast, not slow, just final. He frowned, opened it. His eyes scanned the first page, then the second. His expression didn't change, but his grip tightened. He raised the mic again. Before we proceed, he said, voice flat, but carrying, "We've been handed a directive affecting the use of this land." Chatter rippled across the crowd. Someone laughed. Cameron looked at Owen. Owen looked at me. The auctioneer continued. "Effective immediately, all operations, leasing, and usage of Vaughn Ranch property are revoked under sole ownership authority. Per title documentation and directive signed by Merle Vaughn, legal heir and recorded owner of this estate." Gasps, a dropped glass, then silence. I adjusted my collar. The same spot where the wine had stained. My fingers brushed the fabric, dry. Cameron's face drained. Her mouth opened, then shut. Her mother reached for her, whispering. Owen stepped forward. "Mom, what are you?" I raised my hand. Just once. He stopped. The crowd turned. So did the press. Every guest who'd walked past me now stared like they'd never seen my face before. I looked out at the field, our cattle, our dirt, my name. The announcer set the mic down. The gavel never fell. Cameron screamed. Not words at first, just sound. sharp and breaking. She shoved past the front row heels, slipping on the wood face, flushed and wet. "This is a lie," she shouted. "She's jealous. She's always been jealous. She doesn't own anything." Danette rushed after her, voice rising over the crowd. "This is harassment. This is abuse. You can't just shut down an event like this. I will call someone. I will make this disappear." Owen didn't move. He stood where he was, glass still in his hand, fingers locked around the stem like it might anchor him. His mouth opened once, closed again. He looked from Cameron to me, then to the auctioneer, then back to me. I didn't speak. Security moved in from the sides, calm, professional, black jackets, radios clipped at the shoulder, not rushed, not loud. They didn't grab anyone. They just stepped into the spaces that had opened between people and filled them. One of them leaned toward the announcer, another toward the press table, a third toward the exit. The music cut. Screens went dark. The auction floor emptied faster than it had filled. I stood still, hands folded around my coffee thermos, warm, familiar. My fingers didn't shake. Cameron lunged again, pointing at me. "Say something," she yelled. "Say it to my face." I looked at her, just once. Then I looked past her. Guests whispered as they gathered their coats. Phones buzzed. Someone near the back asked quietly, "Who planned this?" The caterer answered without hesitation. She did. Quietly. Weeks ago. That stopped a few people mid-step. Danette tried again. "Owen," she snapped, "do something." He finally moved, took one step forward, then another. He didn't reach for me. He reached for Cameron. Security blocked him gently. Not rough, just enough. "We'll escort you out now," one of them said, voice low. Cameron fought it. Danette argued. Neither won. As they were guided toward the exit, Cameron twisted around, mascara-streaked dress, rumpled eyes wild. "You think this makes you powerful?" she screamed. I didn't answer. Owen followed a few steps behind them. At the threshold, he stopped, turned back. Our eyes met. For a second, he looked like the boy he used to be. Scared, confused, wanting something fixed without knowing how. Then he looked away and walked out after his wife. The field went quiet. Only chairs scraping. Only wind moving through open doors. I tightened the lid on my thermos and stepped off the platform, already thinking about the morning. I struck the match, lit the stove, let the flame catch under the old kettle. The cabin creaked around me. Wood settling, pipes clicking. Outside, the wind moved low through the grass, but no trucks rumbled up the gravel. No heels clacked on the porch. No one knocked. I pulled the tin from the shelf, measured out the grounds, let the smell fill the room. Sharp, bitter, familiar. I didn't rush. When the kettle hissed, I poured slow. Steam rose. My hand didn't tremble, not even a little. I placed the mug on the table. Same one as always. Small chip at the handle. Handle still strong. The deed sat beside it, not folded anymore, not locked away, signed, dated, stamped in red. The paper looked lighter now. I turned the next page. The eviction order lay open, my signature at the bottom. But just above it, I'd made a change. In small handwriting, tenant may remain. Terms renegotiated. Rent due monthly. I tapped the edge of the page with one finger. Not a threat, not a kindness, just truth. The rent would come. Not in money, not in words. In silence, in absence, in knowing who let them stay and why. I took the mug in both hands, brought it to my lips, sipped once, steady. The field outside stretched wide. Cold dew still on the grass. The barn roof caught the morning light. I could see where they'd hung new string lights. Still there, still tangled. Let them hang a little longer. I'd let the land breathe first. Then I'd decide what came next.